Hey everybody, Tim Brahim with Performance Experts Coaching and Leadership 360 with another business and life tip for you. And today I've brought in a terrific friend and one of the great business people that I've ever had the privilege of coaching before, Craig Strent from Apex Home Loans in Washington, D.C. Craig has been in the top 15 originators, the top 200 originators in the United States for 15 consecutive years. So he certainly brings some great value, to this coaching platform. Craig, thanks a lot for joining us, brother. And my question for you, for the listeners to learn from, is very specifically, you get a ton of business from financial planners. You average roughly 8 to 10 loans a month from that center of influence. And that's a peer group that a lot of originators have not figured out how to penetrate. What are 3 to 5 suggestions that you have for loan originators who would like to develop relationships with CFPs?
Well, thanks, Tim. The first thing I would suggest is taking a long view with regard to this source of business, because it does require some prep work and some homework, and you really need to get educated on what are called mortgage planning topics. So if you want to approach this, it's a specialized niche. And remember that financial advisors typically have significant levels of training and licensing. And so it's important that we speak their language. So a couple of things you might want to do is consider getting a designation specific to working with financial planners. My recommendation is the CMPS designation. That'll give you a lot of the background and information you need. I would consider subscribing to some financial planning magazines and reading personal finance articles so that you really get a sense of some of the terminology that advisors use. And then I would talk about in terms of when you have that and you're ready to approach this market, I would make sure that you acquaint yourself with a lot of mortgage planning concepts and understanding how those play, specifically thinking about why you might use a 30-year versus a 15-year, thinking about why you might use, in some cases, an ARM versus a fixed, thinking about, in some cases, why you might put less money down instead of more money down. All of these done in a conservative, prudent manner, but that does it in a way where you take into account the financial planning goals. It's a natural partnership to work with financial advisors. At the end of the day, they manage the asset side of the balance sheet. That's primarily what they do. They manage assets. And primarily what we do is we manage liabilities. So it's really a natural fit that liability managers and asset managers would get together to help meet the overall short and long-term financial planning goals of the homeowner. Additionally, this will separate you out from other mortgage people. Instead of talking about just rates and fees and sending just a list of those, it'll give you the opportunity to use more detailed and sophisticated levels of software to have a completely different conversation. Now, you'll still talk about rates and fees, obviously, when the time is right. But ahead of that, you'll talk about cash flow savings for college. You'll talk about maxing out employer-sponsored 401k and other types of retirement plans. You'll talk about making sure that the family has the appropriate life insurance and disability insurance coverage. It'll completely change the type of conversation you're having with your customers, and they'll see you as a resource beyond what they normally see as mortgage people. The financial advisor will also see that as well, and they'll come to count on you as a part of their team in the same way in which they count on and lean on their CPA partners, their estate planning partners. You'll find the same thing here. And I'll close by saying a final piece, and I've been saying this for years, there's 3 big reasons that I really love working with financial advisors. And you may laugh a little at some of these, but I think they're really important. One is that individuals who deal with financial advisors, they're paying that person for their advice. And those people that pay for advice tend to follow the advice of the people they pay for. So it's a very strong referral when it comes through the financial advisor. 2, when they're giving out a mortgage name, it's typically your name. They're not giving out 3 different names and saying, call around and see who can do what. They're saying, this is somebody I know and trust and understands financial planning as it relates to mortgages. And so I think you should give him a call. And finally, the one that's terrific is that financial advisors, they don't work weekends. They keep the same hours as we do for the most part. They're not calling you in the evenings and weekends. And as a result, it's a different way to do mortgages, and it's a different way to experience the mortgage business. So that's why I love working with this niche.
Outstanding suggestions. I pulled a couple of needles out of the haystack there just to re-cement. So, don't underestimate, folks, the importance of you getting educated. I mean, Gibran Nicholas is a terrific teacher in the mortgage space as it relates to this subject matter. The CMPS certification and getting educated by him is a great idea. And not just because you have a certification on your business card, but because then you walk into a financial planner meeting with some confidence. You feel like you can speak their language. There's a connection point. You don't feel insecure. And you bring more value to your client, which, of course, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. The other thing that Craig said that I think is really important is that there are certain people out there that value advice. And somebody who's a client of a really good CPA or a really good financial planner that is paying for that kind of advice also sees value in advice in general. I mean, they make their decisions not so much on price, but more on intellectual and intelligent advice that can help them grow their wealth and their financial well-being. So very, very great. Great feedback there, Craig. Really appreciate it. I have one other quick question for you. You've been in the Leadership 360 family for 3.5 years now. We've gotten to know each other really well. What value have you received from being in L360? And what would you say to somebody who's considering joining our program?
Yeah, I had been in the mortgage business a long time. And for a long time, I resisted the idea of coaching in general. And I got to the point where I realized I really wanted to sort of up-level my business in two ways, not just doing more volume, making more money, but also having a more balanced lifestyle and being able to go to the next level without sort of taxing myself personally and my family and a lot of the things that I was doing. And I felt like I needed sort of a roadmap for that. And Leadership 360 gave me that roadmap. It helped me step back and slow everything down for a week at the beginning and take a look at my team, who was doing what, take a look at my process, who was doing what, and then take a look at myself personally and figure out what I was doing, both at work and outside of work. And while I haven't certainly by any means tackled all of my issues there, both business-wise or personally-wise, I've made a lot of progress in a lot of areas. And the Leadership 360 program really helped me see that. So I thank the coaches for a huge piece of that. A secondary piece of that, and this has only gotten better in the time I'm there because the program has grown, is that I have found in my 22 years in the mortgage business that the number one most valuable thing that has helped me move the needle and grow has been masterminding with other top originators. And I was in a mastermind group ahead of Leadership 360. I found a new group in my core signature program there in the first year. And now beyond that, graduated into the master's program. So being able to tap into a couple dozen top mortgage minds in non-competitive markets from around the country on any possible topic I imagine has proven to be invaluable in helping me grow my business and tackle difficult issues.
I'm glad you feel that way, and you're welcome, and it's our pleasure to work with you, brother. Thank you for watching this video. We'll be back at you next week with another interview with another top producer. Craig, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to join me, and we wish everyone a beautiful rest of your week. Bye-bye, everyone.